This is Remo Daily, your daily dose of inspiration. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. This is Remo Daily, an oasis of innovation for your mind, your soul, your heart. Connect, act, recharge with Remote Daily. This is Remote Daily.
Yes, the funk is back in the building. And here's our guest, the founder of SYPartners, co-founder of Q Collective, and most recently a creator of This Human Moment and just general grandmaster. Keith Yamashita, welcome to Remote Daily.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Wow.
Keith,
I'm already weeping. You're going to definitely get a weepy version of me today. Thank you for that great music. Oh.
Keith, it's such an honor to have you join us live. I think you're in the San Francisco area. So I may ask, how do you feel today, and how do you and your loved ones cope with everything that's going on around you?
Yeah, the sun rose this morning, and that sounds like kind of a silly topic, but a week ago, the sun never rose here. We woke up to a dark sky, and it was early, and I thought, oh, well, maybe my clock is wrong. I looked at my clock, it's fine. Another hour passed, still no sun. I literally Googled, this tells you how desperate I got. I Googled, sun did not rise. And you get a surprising number of responses from that Google search. And as the story now is clear to the world, our skies had been overtaken by a combination of fog and smoke, and we were hemmed in darkness for a good week here. So the sun rose today. I have sunrise faith that when the sun gets up, you get another chance. So
wow,
I'm grateful to be here.
And Keith, I have to say, you are a son to many. Many people are in your orbit and circling around you for decades. You're a very special leader, not only to the thousands of people that have experienced this human moment, not only to the CEOs like Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Howard Schultz, who have trusted you for decades, not only to your almost 200 employees at SYPartners. It seems everybody loves you. And Shane Snow, great Shane Snow, journalist, author, has been a guest on this show, wrote about you that you are perhaps the most wonderful human he ever has encountered. Now, Shane is a serious investigative journalist, best-selling author. I totally believe him. And I have to start.
Maybe we should just stop the interview here. Just like, stop. What a lovely, gracious intro. We should just stop right there. Humbling, please.
I'll start with an easy question for you, Keith. What are your core values that make you you?
Ooh, I think there are three maybe at the core. So I'm a pursuer of beauty. I believe as human beings, we're all entitled to beauty. So whether you can make it or take it in to inspire you. I'm a big believer in moonshots. I have a value of trying to do audacious things that go beyond the practical or rational. My dad was literally an engineer on the Apollo mission to put a human on the moon. And
wow.
Maybe a third thing I think would be creativity. I think our ability and capacity as human beings to imagine what does not yet exist. I will say, in addition to maybe these three values, I'm learning a way of being now, which I think is much more vulnerable, much more honest about the polarities in our lives, I think, and hopefully much more in accompaniment of all of us and each other as we walk this path. It's a very scrambly path right now. And so I think there's some maybe emerging things for me that become important, more important than I understood before even just 6 months ago.
And talking about these last 6 months, I mean, looking at SYPartners, everybody in the chat can see the link to your firm. It was founded by you and two friends who had met. You all had met at Apple together.
Yes, yes.
And you have said before that SYPartners prides itself to sort of exist at the outer edges of incompetence. I love that so much.
Of our incompetence. I should be clear. Our incompetence. I think what I mean by that. So we're a firm that really believes in human flourishing and believes in performance and where those two things come together. And we try to work with the organizations to help them flourish. And I think our now quarter century practice, we are always on the outer edge of what we understand. We're always on the outer edge of what we know how to do. We're always on the outer edge of what's possible. I mean, and I call this kind of being beyond our competence. Please.
You just mentioned the past 6 months as having this particularly difficult path. So talking about incompetence, what was your most incompetent moment this year?
I mean, I think the whole thing has been a massive incompetence for me. It's we all use words like unprecedented and has never happened in history making and once in a lifetime. And these are, I think, are all kind of inadequate explainers for what we are going through. Our dear friend Krista Tippett says this is a species moment. And doesn't it feel that way? And so I feel like I'm beyond what I understand. I'm beyond what the containers of sense making can hold. I'm beyond the suffering that I've witnessed and seen and has been in my own life. And so I think the whole thing is kind of an era of being beyond one's competence. And I think the thing that I'm learning into, leaning into, trying to understand is that these profound moments of setback and shock and suffering, that they can also be a moment of tremendous growth. We don't have to settle only for post-traumatic stress. We can also try to find meaning and importance and value to this time. And it's not easy work. I think and we certainly are not used to doing it collectively.
Trying to understand how much you have helped people with renewal, I would like to take course towards mid-2018 with you. You had a stroke while being on a conference call, while simultaneously buying an SUV. On the first day, I think after moving back to San Francisco from New York, you were 51 years old. At the hospital, your iPhone wouldn't unlock anymore because it didn't recognize your face. You lost part of your speech. And you called this a profound setback and a glorious event that has brought me fully alive. Yeah. I know all of this because while your work with SYPartners is sometimes private, sort of like maybe a little under the radar, especially humble, you're personally, I think, only mentioned in connection with your firm in one New York Times article from 5 years ago. That's the only thing I've found. But I found so much about your stroke online, more than about any of your work. Oprah's magazine, Thrive Global, podcasts, meditations, even an entire website dedicated to this live event of yours. What gut feeling made and keeps making you go so public with this very intimate, very personal, very painful experience?
I think when we really think about it, we accompany each other through this earth, right? And your suffering is my suffering, my tragedy is your tragedy. And I realized, at least here in America, we so devalue sharing what's really going on in favor of a more frosted over appearance that everything is just fine. And what I do for a living is I help people imagine a better future, and then I help them create and manifest it. And I realized in the middle of my stroke that there was a lot more to the story, the rough parts of the story, the dark parts of the story, the sitting with the part you don't understand, don't know, have not been trained for, that it's the really much more valuable part of our accompaniment of each other. And so somewhere along the way, I decided, why don't we just start sharing on the hopes that other people would share. It's a strand that goes, I think, through your community here, which I am. I've only been with you for like 7 minutes, and I can already feel the love. And I think it's a similar strand with the community that we're building for this human moment. Tim Young, who's on, there are a couple of you here who are part of that community as well. We're rooted in the same thing. Like, let's show up and be human beings fully, and make that the norm, not the exception.
You managed to create something out of this, what you just mentioned, into a virtual experience, this human moment, a weekly Friday online gathering you hosted on Zoom as a webinar for, I think, 7 weeks in a row,
Yes,
helping each of us really as humans in this moment to not just cope but flourish on the other side, and build muscles of noticing, of curiosity, grieving, find new possibilities. It was all in there. And of course, the big topic was renewal. And it resonated so well with people. Please share a few numbers with us. How many people did attend this human moment? How many guests did you host?
We have about 10,000 people who have come forward and raised their hand and, are part of our community, and we connect and communicate with them. And then, thousands of people will join us for any given session. As you shared, Felix, we did our first 7 episodes, and it has been episode making in the absolute darkness of not knowing what we are doing. Each show is its own artistic creation with beautiful parts and super messy parts that don't always work. I will give you a sneak peek. I think we are going to relaunch the sessions and start again right after the US election here in the United States. No matter what side of the aisle you sit on, I'm sure if you are an American, and I know many of you aren't, you stretch all over the globe, I believe we're in for an even deeper set of suffering and division. So our hope is to launch our second season sometime in the early part of November. So we wish us luck there, or join us, even better, join us.
Great news for tens of thousands of grateful people. I attended live and I was so impressed, so powerful. The production was amazing. The visuals strong, the sound, the guests were brilliant. And I also never saw a Zoom chat like that. It was just racing. It was because there were thousands of people just typing in gratitude, inner feelings, typing their souls out, really. And this human moment is the best webinar I've ever experienced. And given the numbers, I think it's
except your own
biggest. Which is a Zoom meeting. So I'm not even trying to live up to the webinar standards that you put out there. We are on democratic, like eye level with everyone,
yes.
from you to Mark Cuban to everybody who joins us on the show. So it's a different setup we chose. But what especially struck me on this human moment were the animations. Next to the artistic performances, which were beautiful, the animations were so special. And we picked one together here for today to share. And please, Keith, tell us, before we watch it, David White's poem, Just Beyond Yourself. We're going to watch it, experience it in a second. What does it mean to you?
It's two things. One on macro. And this has to do with beauty, which is the role of the artist is to help us challenge what is and imagine what has yet to be made, and make that so seductive and attractive that we're brave enough to walk toward it. So my macro thing about trying to bring so much art into every space, and especially into this human moment, is to acknowledge that we are all artists in the creation of our own life. Specifically about this space, this piece, David White, many of you know his poetry. He has been with us on this human moment, and this particular piece is about whoever we are in this present moment. Our future self beckons us, and it's just beyond what we could imagine. And in order to get there, we have to retire some of our old narratives. We have to go in deeper about who we really are, and we have to kind of surrender. So why don't we play this, and then we'll have a little discussion about it.
Please turn your videos off. Be so kind for watching this video together. As we all know, Zoom to master Zoom is a science. And we have learned here that co-watching videos is better when the video is the only thing visible. So please turn off your video for the second and enjoy.
Just beyond yourself. Just beyond yourself. Just beyond yourself. It's where you need to be. Half a step into self-forgetting, and the rest restored by what you'll meet. There's a road always beckoning. There's a road always beckoning when you see the two sides of it closing together at that far horizon. And deep in the foundations of your own heart at exactly the same time. That's how you know it's where you have to go. That's how you know it's the road you have to follow. That's how you know. That's how you know. It's just beyond yourself. It's where you need to be.
Now, before we experience your gift of guidance live, Keith,
Felix, I think you might have frozen, or maybe I'm
listening
frozen.
to
We'll
this,
see.
watching
We'll
this,
see
I
who's
want-
frozen. Yes, please. I think I maybe missed the back
okay.
end of your question, Felix. Sorry, you froze on my screen, or I froze on your screen. One of the two.
Thank you. Am I back to your screen?
Yes, I can hear you now. Can everyone hear Felix? Thumbs up. Mezzo. Yes.
Felix is a little frozen. Maybe we'll give him a second to change his Wi-Fi, perhaps.
I'll maybe fill,
Me.
having done this moment on this human moment, I'll fill a little bit of
I
time
will-
here, please. This is, let me add a little bit.
Well, I
Yeah.
remember my family to not use the Wi-Fi. I will remind my family to not use the Wi-Fi for another minute. And I will ask you to share with us what you personally took away from creating and hosting this human moment.
Mm. You know, this phrase, just beyond yourself, is so helpful, right? It's half a step into forgetting and being met with what's on the other side. If you think about who we are right now in this moment of shared suffering, we are also in this moment of shared possibility. And this human moment started super innocently, like it was getting a call from two friends that said, we are embarking on an era we're not going to understand. Why don't we just do a gathering on Fridays and see if we can get people to come and talk about what's going on with each other. And every session has been just beyond what we understood or know. And the artists will bring in ideas, and the speakers will bring in ideas, and the community will share thousands of comments of what they're feeling. And I think the thing that I am learning about this is that it used to be the case that there were some people in your life that were going through trauma or suffering, but it is now pretty much universally true that everyone in our lives is suffering from something. And that means our loving being and our compassion to meet them is the most important gift we can give as human beings to each other. For those of you who are in the realm of business, knowing now as a leader, everyone who will cross your path today is suffering from something. Changes how we lead. Every one of us who is a parent or grandparent on this call, knowing that that little one in your care is in a world that is confusing and different and challenging, it shows you we need to meet them in a different way. For those of us who are in relationships, and some of us who have been quarantined with our other, trying to find other aspects within them that are still mysteries and still things to be discovered becomes so important. So Felix, I think for me, it's been this grand humbling of what we are really capable of doing, which is actually far more than many of us realized 6 months ago. You know, your capacity to love is far bigger than it was 6 months ago. Your capacity to care is far deeper. Your possibility of what you can do for someone on your teammate with 10 extra minutes is more profound. And, you know, my stroke story, you know, in the middle of buying a car, while running a meeting on the first day back in California, it tells you the whole metaphor of how so many of us have chosen to live. And I think this last 6 months beckons and calls us to reshape ourselves. It can be different. Kind of a long poetic answer,
Keith,
but David
you
White does that to
kindly
me.
offered to guide us.
Yes.
Keith, you kindly offered to guide us through an exercise for us as a group called Renewal Recipe, helping
Yes.
us to contract the path to our individual futures.
Yes.
You've worked with Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Howard Schultz, all these giants. And I'm so honored to, you know, now work with you. And I invite you all to take up your paper and pen.
If you get a piece of paper and a pen, thanks, Felix. We'll go through this together. Let me share a little diagram with you first to get you situated. Can you see this diagram here? You know, this is something that we explore in this human moment. We call it the trauma to renewal curve, which is anytime something really profound happens in your life that is shocking and different, it sends you into a sense of trauma. And many of us know the phases of trauma, that you have a kind of denial phase, and then you have a wishing phase and a bargaining phase. But there is a whole emergent body of work, psychology and neuroscience, about this part, which is about post-traumatic growth. We don't have to settle only for trauma that sends us forever downward. We can try to use a trauma to grow as human beings and head toward what I call a renewal. So upon Felix's invitation, we are all now 6 months into this COVID thing. Everyone is in a different point of this depending on how your life and how you've experienced it. Many of us who have lost people to COVID are still way over here. Other people have gone through a lot of reckoning and are maybe more here. What I want to do with you all is to help formulate the very first inklings of what I would call a renewal recipe. So if you get out your piece of paper, fold it in thirds like a letter. And for the super millennials who have never sent a physical letter, you go this way and that way. I mean that in a kind, gentle, multi-generational thing. Okay, what I want you to do is then label each of the third, because your renewal recipe has a third, which is your past, a third, which is your present, and a third, which is your beckoning, yearning for future. And just to help you out, let me ask you to write 3 words. For your history, write the word honor. For your present, write the word emerge. And for your future, write the word imagine. And we're going to start at the bottom here with your past. So whether you've been on this planet for 21 years, or 31 years, or 54 years, or 71 years, think about the glorious life you have led. And in this moment of trauma, in this moment of remaking, in this moment of renewal, what are the things you want to make sure you honor about that past? and write down just a few words or phrases. And don't really overthink it. Just kind of go, ooh, what have I stood for? What have I done? Who am I? What do I value? Just give a couple phrases about what you want to honor. So as I go forward into this next period, what do I want to make sure I bring with me? I wrote on mine beauty and creativity, because even though these times are tough and dark, I'm not willing to give up beauty or creativity. Those are super essential to me. I'm not willing to give in. I'm not willing to say it's dark forever. I'm not willing to say it's only ugly. That's a very conceptual thing. You could also say parent. You could also say your job title. You don't have to be as metaphoric as I am. I'm a fairly metaphoric human. Raise your hand when you have a few phrases that you've written down, meaning you have a starting point somewhere. This is an exercise that you can do many times after we're off this call. Okay, so a good number. Okay. I want you to go to the center part, which is this gift we've been given this last 6 months that came in kind of horrific wrapping paper and then was kind of a stinky gift on the inside. But if you dig around it deeper, within the toughness of this moment, there are things that are emerging in your life, perhaps totally unexpected, not necessarily asked for, that you also want to bring into your future. It is emergent for you. So I'll say as an example, in my crazy pre-stroke life, I would say I was a great entrepreneur and not a very good father. I think what the last 6 months have brought me is lots of time with my kids and a real chance to be a present father for them. And that's something that's emerging for me now that I definitely want to bring into my renewal, definitely want to bring forward. And even though I asked for it before, I received it as a gift with COVID in a way that far outstripped what I asked for. So write something that's emergent for you. This is obviously harder, and you may not be able to capture it in our time together today. It may take several passes to be able to recognize emergent things in your life that you're falling in love with, because they often come disguised as trauma, inconvenience, things that are alarming, disruptive, you don't like them. They often come wrapped in wicked wrapping paper that really requires an unpacking before you can say, like, actually, that I want to bring forward with me. So just write down a few jot phrases. Your heart will put something on the paper that when you revisit later, you'll actually find to be pretty remarkable. So don't worry too much. Just jot down phrases that your heart is telling you. And now let's just move to the top part, imagination. And sometimes I use the term on this human moment, moral imagination. And what I mean by that is this era has laid bare inequity, has laid bare a different kind of suffering, has laid bare challenges and broken systems. And so when I say imagination, you can also include the word moral. Write down some phrases of the world you want to create the life you want to create because it's for you, but also maybe because it's a more just society or more loving society. Write just a little description about that future world you want to be a part of. And just write down a couple notes here. Again, obviously, this is an entire lifetime you can spend on this question. What is the world that you want to create, and what is the life you want to create within it? Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, thank you. Thank you for showing me your work. Yes, double thumbs up. Thank you. So good. Okay. So take out what you've, I wrote on mine, you can't read my messy writing, but I basically wrote, I need to honor beauty and creativity. The thing that's emerging for me is parenthood and also a sense of mission and calm. And what I imagine is moonshots about a more loving world, a more equal world, a more equitable world. So for me, that's the start of my recipe for renewal. So take a look at your recipe for renewal and just read to yourself the phrases from the bottom to the top. I want to bring with me these things. I value these things that are emerging in my life. And I yearn for or hope for a world and life that works this way. And here's the thing that we have found to be true at this human moment, which is walk around with that piece of paper this week. You can keep refining it. You will think more about it. You'll dream more about it. Things will come to you in the morning, over breakfast, over tea. You'll see a tragic thing and it'll sharpen your worldview. But then start to look at your life as it flows toward you, and the hundreds of interactions that will cross your path in any given day. And start choosing the ones that nudge you towards your recipe. And start diminishing the ones that take you away from that recipe. It's interesting because this renewal recipe for me made me embrace the idea of doing this human moment. When I got a simple text message that said, hey, a lot of people are going to be suffering. Would you be willing to work together to create this thing, TBD? That to me was about beauty and creativity. I had done this renewal recipe based on my stroke, not on COVID. And it was really about parenthood, and it was really about the future, and it was really about this sense of calm, and it was really about this more beautiful world. So what this recipe can do for you is just start nudging things. People say like, well, how does this renewal happen? How does massive change happen? It can happen in great, huge, epiphanic leaps, lightning bolt leaps. It can happen that way. But I think for most of us, it happens in the daily choosing of the 100 things that come our way, shifting our attention toward the things that are of the recipe and gently denying the things that aren't. And you'll find, as many of us are finding, over weeks and months, this does start to be the life that you begin to live.
And now,
so Felix, thank you.
You all know why thousands of people have been attending and learning and changing through this human moment. Thank you so much, Keith, for this exercise and for being here in the room with us.
You're welcome.
Sharing this time, giving guidance, and bringing yourself.
Thank you.
I would like to open.
Just one last thing, Felix, sorry, yes. Is if you want to go deeper on that, at thishumanmoment.com, there are actual tools to help you do this. So if that piqued your curiosity, they're all free. So So stop on by and you can listen to recordings and other worksheets and things that might help you. Thank you.
Thank you. And you see the love pouring here in the chat. Also from people, from Jenny and others who have actually experienced this human as a lifeboat. So from one lifeboat to the other, thank you. And I would like to open the room for questions while I look for hands raising up. For anybody who'd like to ask Keith, just raise your hand and let me know. And while you all think up questions, I would like to challenge Keith with one more hard question. Keith, you have worked with all these leaders, and you were asked once what they have in common, like all these luminaries, right? What makes them stand out? And you said they're better at envisioning a future that doesn't yet exist, and then use everything in their might to make it a reality. So before I give a minute to the room, I have to ask you, what's the future that you're currently putting your might behind to make real? What picture can you paint for us that we don't yet see?
Yeah, I'm. Your group here is quite a global group, and actually, this human moment is quite a global group as well. And I will say that I'm having a real myopic moment actually right now, which is about the United States of America and the challenging and division that is what we call America right now. And what I am trying to summon in my own imagination. So we're in a period right now where it's all about calling each other out and dividing and shaming and reckoning and making demands. And depending on who you are in the United States, all of that is completely legitimate. But what I'm trying to conjure, the United States of America turns 250 in the year 2026. So just 5 years from now, beyond whoever will be elected in America beyond that person's term. And so I'm trying to envision an America that is color brave, gender brave, neuro brave, faith brave, meaning I want to move to a place where we can be deeply seen, honored, loved, heard, and upheld for who we really deeply are. And with full recognition of the pride that is American history and the wreckage that is American history. And so what I'm trying to aim my energy to is, what would it take for us to be willing to be that America? And what would we have to come to love? And what would we have to come to see in each other? And what process of reckoning and imagination and remorse and atonement and possibility making would we need to go to through the next 5 years so that we have a country worth celebrating? In this session, many of you may not share my politics or my worldview, and I think that's exactly the whole point, is how do we create an America where all of that difference is what makes us us. I'm naive and I'm narrow-minded, and actually I think history is turned often by people who are naive in wanting things that don't yet exist.
Thank you, Keith.
And is that Juliana Prather? Oh my Lord. Juliana, oh my God. Juliana and I went to college together and have not seen each other in several decades. Oh my Lord.
Wow. Juliana.
Wow.
Please go on mute.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh my gosh. I have for another time, but Keith, I actually have one of the photographs you took framed in my house because at 20 years old, it was one of the great lessons in vanity and self-respect. True. Keith took a very beautiful random one day picture of me in black and white, just random, because he was experimenting with a camera. And he framed it to me, and it's beautiful. And of course, being insecure at 20 and not just finding myself, I thought I looked terrible. And he said, "You don't know how to see," and sort of walked away like, "I'm not going to talk to you about this photo till you can see."
Till we meet 30 years later
Yes.
in the remote daily.
Anyway, I have the picture framed because I unpacked it years later, and this whole spirit came in that said, you have to know what art looks like, and you just didn't know. And anyway, it's beautiful.
Oh,
So
Juliana.
I will
So
have to send
gorgeous.
you the picture and make you laugh.
Mm,
Anyway,
so
you're
great, so-
amazing.
Oh, Lord.
Hello.
Oh, Lord. That is random. That's lovely. That's amazing.
So I'm not sure what just happened,
I don't know.
but
Juliana
I
and I
guess,
seriously have not seen each other since our senior year in college.
Yeah.
Or
I guess
maybe
the
once
only-
at a reunion.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time together.
We were very, very close in a shared group of friends.
Yeah.
She moved away to Italy. She built a very, very glamorous life straight away, and we kind of lost track. So to be reconnected through remote daily is kind of a wow.
It's an amazing thing, right? I randomly turned it on today at 1 and I go, oh my God, it's Keith. Thank
Oh my
you.
God, you're watching us all have our moment. Wow, that's amazing.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer. You're allowed to sing along, please do. But I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. This is remote daily.